Hello, my name is Jeremy Fox. This is my MDF1 Week 2 video review, term 1210. First, what we had to do this week was create a UI tab bar controller app with at least 3 tabs in it. One tab had to have a table view. Another, I think, had to have like a navigation control that showed details, would show a separate view that would be pushed on the stack that showed additional details about the item you clicked on the main view, something like that. And then the last tab was a freeform UI that we could come up with ourselves. So what I decided to do was just add additional functionality to my week 1 app. Since it already had some of the requirements for this app, I just figured it'd make most sense instead of rewriting all of that. And as you can see, the first tab, I created an icon for just a 20 because this is the top 20 Street Fighter style motorcycles. Just like in week 1, you can edit the list. And of course, this is actually two of the requirements in one, because this is a table view controller, and it also is embedded within a UI navigation controller. So when I select one of these, it pushes a new view onto the stack and shows me the details. But that's the first view. Just like in week 1, it does pretty much the same stuff. And then on the second tab, we have a settings tab. So if we click contact info, it brings up presents a new view controller and a view. And as you can see, I've already got some things in here that I saved. We click save, it goes away and says your information has been saved. Dismiss my bikes. So as you can see, I already got stuff in there. I can just hit clear and it erases everything in the NS user defaults and puts it back to the empty state in the text. And if I try to save, not saved, I have to enter something in. Goes away and says it's saved. And then connecting to social networks. Turn that on. Twitter, now connected, but not really. As I said, it's not actually really doing it, just showing what it could, kind of be. And I have both of these separate, which really they could be refactored into one. But just to kind of specify that, hey, let the user know we can do both. It's going to show you the same screen, but we can connect to both. And then an about section, which shows the logo with just some small text I threw in there about how we like to bring you up-to-date news on sport bikes. Privacy policy, which just has a bunch of just plain text in there. Same thing with terms of use. And then we have the last freeform, which I actually implemented map kit and core location to show some pins on a map that would be kind of like quote-unquote meetups. A lot of sport bike and just bike riders in general like to have meetups. So I figured maybe this could be a way for people with the app to see what meetups were coming up near their location. And then if I click on each one, it says location, Snellville, Georgia meetup date, February 13th, 2013. And then they all have a location and a meetup date on them. And as you can see there, it's a custom pin I threw together that just shows a sport bike on it. So just to kind of add a little custom feel to it. And that's the app. Try to run through this code as quick as I can here because this is kind of running long. But as you can see, I've got a lot of files in here because I've got all these different view controllers and stuff that I had to do, especially for this settings screen. So if we start here at the app delegate, we create the main view controller, settings controller, and map view controller. Those are for our 3 tabs. And then we create a nav controller. Set the color of the nav controller, create a tab bar controller, and then we tell it its view controllers is our array of the 3 view controllers we instantiated above. Set the root view controller, make key invisible, return yes, and then we can look at, for example, our main our MotoSpeed main cell, which is the cell you see here. We also have a constants class just for reusing different constants throughout the application without having to retype it multiple times. We also have tab 1, which is our nav controller. We have our details view, which is there's the nib. And the code, this is all just like in week 1. And then our main view, which there it is, shows the list. And there's the main view code. Essentially just grabbing some data out of a JSON object that I created statically that's in the app to display all this info. Then we have tab 2, which is a table view. We have the different sections. So we have about social networks and my info. About social info, or social networks and my info, as you can see right there. So about, we have an about view controller, which there's the nib. This is like literally nothing. All it is just presenting what's in the nib. We have a privacy policy view controller, which again is just the same thing. It's just presenting static data from within the nib. And the same thing with terms of use for that whole about section, everything's static. Social networks is these 2 switches. And here I've got a couple IV outlets to the switches and a couple IV actions for when this value has changed. Then we're just creating alerts depending on what the value of the switch was. And that's pretty much it for each one of those, Twitter and Facebook. The contact view controller has a name and an email and a clear and a save. So obviously we have, again, same thing, outlets for each one, and then IV actions for both of the buttons. And the same thing is in My Bikes, except for we only have one text field here. So if we go into the implementation file, we are grabbing anything that was currently stored or previously saved from NS user defaults and setting that text if it exists. If not, it will just default to the placeholder text. And then if we hit the clear button, we're going to remove anything that was previously saved in user defaults and set the text back to an empty string, which will set it to the placeholder text. And then when we click the save button, we check to make sure that text was entered in both fields, and then we save it to user defaults and prompt the user, and then dismiss the view. And then otherwise, if they didn't enter anything in, we tell them it didn't save, please enter something in before saving. And that's the exact same thing on the My Bikes view controller. We have the settings view controller, which, as you can see, it's our table view data source and delegate, which is this whole view controller here. So we had to do a couple things to make the each section in the grouped table view work. Okay, so right here we're setting up each of the arrays for each section. So as you can see, settings my info section has contact info and my bikes, just like here, contact info and my bikes, as you can see over here in the simulator. Then Twitter and Facebook, and about motive speed, privacy policy in terms of use. Again, right there they are. So we're creating those arrays right there. And then UI table view data source required method, number of rows in section. We have to switch on the section that we're getting, and then depending on what section it is, we return the appropriate count depending on that array. Self road index path. This is all just the standard stuff above where we create a cell, set its accessory view to the disclosure indicator, which is that little guy there, the little arrow pointy thing. And then now we need to switch on the section again so that we know what text we need to set. So we have right here, so we switch on the section. If the section is the my info section, which would be this section here, we then set the text label text to the object at index path.row in the settings my info array. And that's how we get each cell in there. And then let's see, number of sections in table view. This is just static. I already know how many there are in there, so I just put a 3 in there and used a constant. And then title for header in section. We again have to switch on it, and then depending on what section we're in, we can set the title for each grouped section. And that's that. And then when we select it, this looks kind of ugly, but it's just the way it is. Did select road index path. We have to, again, switch on the section. If the section is the my info section and the index path is 0, we know they clicked on the contact info. So we can set our view controller we've got up here. We can set the view controller to a new contact view info view controller. and then we present it. And that just happens for each section and row. And that is the settings view controller that creates this guy and makes it work. We have tab 3, which is our custom view controller, which, as you can see, is just a big map. We have an outlet to the map, and then let me go back, and then we are the map views delegate. First thing we do is make sure we are set as the delegate to the map view. Then we have some custom moto speed annotation objects and a location and an annotation center. We are just creating this over and over again, like 5 times, I think, for each one of these locations, and just statically setting the lat long and the title and subtitle for the annotation. When you touch it, the annotation pop up. Setting the annotations, and then calling this custom method that I have, zoom to fit region for annotations, and we pass it the locations array, which is all of these custom moto speed annotation objects in an array. So it receives those, and then we tell it what view we want this to present in, which is our map view. And if we jump into this guy, you can see this is going to call calculate region method with our annotations, and that is right here. And this just does some math on each one, loops through them, finds the top left and the bottom right coordinate, and ultimately returns an MK coordinate region, which, as you can see here, we grab the region, and then we have the map view that we passed into this method here that we can call a method set region animated, and we grab the map view again, call a method region that fits, pass it the region we just got from this calculate region method here, and then it will animate the map to that region. I know that sounds like a lot, region here, region there, but it's actually not that hard. Just a little math in this guy here. And then we are the view for annotation. We are creating a MapKit pin annotation view and creating it there. If the DQ reusable annotation view with identifier didn't return anything, we create one, and then we set the custom image, and then say yes, it can show a call out, which is when you tap it, it shows the call out, and then return it. And that is the map view. And here's our moto speed annotation, which has a coordinate, title, and subtitle, and one method in it with coordinate, with title, with subtitle, which sets all of these properties. And then I have, I created this superclass for each of the view controllers in the section, because each one of these, if you'll see, has a title and a done button. Every single one of them has the exact same thing: done button, done button, done button, done button. So instead of having to write a done button clicked IB action for every single one of all of these view controllers in this whole middle tab here, all these view controllers, I just created a superclass that I could implement that has all of it already set up for me. So I have an IB action, and then I extend that in each one of these classes. So as you can see, the about view controller, right here, I implement the moto speed view controller. So that's gives me my action. I can just wire it up for each one right there, so it's only written once. Made things a little bit easier. And that's it. I hope the video wasn't too long. The last thing I'm supposed to cover is what I could have done better. The only thing I wish I had more time to do, which I guess could go into what I could have done better, was offer like the click and hold on here. So like if I wanted to create a new event, I could click and hold and it would drop a pin. And then I also wanted to have, when you click on the pin, it would show the call out, the right call out accessory indicator, the little blue button with the arrow. When you click it, the map would slide off like in a navigation controller, and then show some additional details about each one of these events. But of course I ran out of time. So that's really the only thing I really think I could have done better. Other than that, I think it went well. So again, I hope this video didn't run too long for you, and I thank you for watching.